digitally. And here was a complicated scene, so I drew the characters in different colors, right, to keep them separate from one another. So that's how the image started off. And then the next phase looked like that. And finally, the image looked like that. And that image right there took me probably about 2.5 hours to complete. It takes me a really long time because I zoom way, way in when I'm drawing to get everything just right. So let's go to the next slide and let's see if this works out. I wanted to show you what it looks like when one of my images comes together. Let's see if I have to hit, do we have to hit play or something like that? I'm going to try to get this going.
Oh, there's some flash.
Let's see. Yeah, that's going to work. So somebody just said that that's in Flash, and that's right. I use a program called Flash to do all of my drawings. And the reason I use Flash is because I'm used to it. It's not a great drawing tool, but it's just good enough for me. And Flash, I actually have a day job. I work for a website called Poptropica. Many of you guys have heard of that? Yeah. So Poptropica is a website that I created, and it's what I usually do during the daytime. In fact, I was working on Poptropica today before I came here. But you can see that what I do is I start with a head template, and then I use this kind of this paintbrush as a rough tool, right? And then I start going over things, and I'll show you, it's very slow. You can see it's very, very time consuming for me. I'm going to skip around in the drawing now. So let's see here. Okay, you can see here what I'm doing is I'm drawing Greg. Now I was in England recently, and there's something called Buckingham Palace where these guards stand outside of Buckingham Palace, and they're like the palace guards, and they stand very stone-faced at attention, right? And tourists come up to them and they try to make them laugh. So here I'm drawing Greg trying to make Rowley as a guard laugh. But you can see that, you know, I really take forever to get the lines just right. A lot of times people ask me, they say, you know, how do you get your lines to look so smooth? Because they think I'm using a pen. Well, I am sort of. I guess you could say I'm cheating a little bit because I can keep adjusting my lines until they're just right. But I'm sort of obsessive about it, and that's why it takes me up to about an hour per drawing to get these just right. So I'm going to show you some of the end stages. What I really like about using the computer is that when you make a mistake, you can say undo, which I really wish you could do in real life. Why is Riley wearing a wig? So that's the hat that a palace guard would wear. Right?
Why is he wearing this? Is this like the next book?
No, this was just an image I drew just for fun to see if I could capture a drawing. So I usually don't use color in my cartoons because what I really like about cartooning is that it's the art of boiling something down to its essence. It's the art of simplifying something, right? And I like using black and white because it's just enough. But in this drawing, where I have Rowley as a Buckingham Palace guard, I really wanted to make it clear that that's what he was. So I used a little splash of red there to finish that drawing. So that's how one of the Wimpy Kid drawings comes together. So how many of you guys have seen the movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I've only seen one.
You've only seen one?
Yeah.
I hope you've seen the others. What's been really fun for me is that I get to see the drawings that I draw come to life on screen. So some of the things are just simple props. So let's take a look at the next slide. So here, for example, is the cell phone that Greg gets. And then the real version of it, which I have in my home, it's the Ladybug cell phone. And then here is a dog dish that Roderick gets, right? It's supposed to say Sweetie, their dog's name, but he misspells it and it comes out Sweaty. But the coolest thing I've gotten to see come to life is actually the characters, the actors. So here's a picture of Robert Capron and Greg Heffley, or Robert Capron and Zachary Gordon, who play Rowley Jefferson and Greg Heffley. So it's been really fun getting to know these kids and watching them grow up, actually. When I first met Robert, I think he was up to about here on me, and now he's, you know, like a 15-year-old boy just about. He's about here. And Zach, I'm going to see him actually tomorrow. So it's been really fun getting to know these guys. I wanted to show you a few slides here. This is myself and Zach at a Lakers game. That's okay, right? Lakers around here. Right? And then this is myself and Robert just recently at a Patriots game. So it's been... Yes, that was it. Very good. No, actually it wasn't that, but they were against Texas.
Was it playoff?
No, I'll talk to you later. So, it's been a lot of fun making the movies. I think we're probably done making the live action movies with these guys because they are shaving. So, I think that's enough, you know, we can't go much further with them. But I've gotten to do all sorts of really cool things as an author of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, including, I've gotten to meet 3 presidents, including President Obama in the White House. That was really cool. I got to speak at the Sydney Opera House, so I'll show you a picture of that. This was in Australia. So I got to speak at the Sydney Opera House. I get to tour around on a big tour bus that like rock bands use, so I'll show you that. It's really cool. The bus we toured in had like 15 TVs. It was just crazy. A shower, everything. And then, but I think that the coolest thing that I've gotten to do is to make a balloon for the Macy's Day Parade. Do you guys watch the New York Thanksgiving Day Parade? Yeah? So, not so much. It's a big thing on the East Coast. So they have these giant helium balloons, right? These giant helium balloons. And I got to have a helium balloon in the Macy's Day Parade. So it started off with a rough sketch, as these things usually do. So let's advance there. And then that went to a clay model, and that's myself and my editor. We wanted to make sure we got everything just right because this was going to be a giant balloon. Like Greg's foot is the width of this room. And then I got to see Greg Heffley fly. I'm down there. I'm one of those guys in those little red beanies. And this is myself and my brothers on the day of the parade last year. And we have a Cheese Touch shirt on, a bib on actually. And then I got to see Greg Heffley fly down the streets of New York City, and I went to end actually the speech portion of the night with this slide. There's Greg with the Empire State Building in the background. And I just wanted to say, you know, I started off as a person without much talent. You know, I'm not a great writer, I'm not a great illustrator, I don't live in an exotic place, but, you know, I was willing to stick with the idea for a long time, and I really nurtured it. And I wanted to say to any of you kids who have an idea that deserves to be seen, I would just really encourage you to take your time with it and to nurture it, because maybe one day you'll get to see your ideas fly as well. So thank you very much, and I'm excited to answer your questions. And you've had your hand up forever. Am I going to make an 8th book? Yes, I'm working on it now. It's going to be about Greg and Rowley having a girlfriend. Good. Okay, one at a time, guys. The next book, it's going to be the color of the interior of your jacket right there. Yeah, like a lime green. Yes. So raise your hand so I can. Yeah.
You said that there's no longer going to be any live-action movies. Will there be any like full animated movies or any future movies for Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
Great question. I was actually at Fox Animation today working on a holiday special, which is going to be based on Cabin Fever. So yes, there will be. Yeah.
What about the Ugly Duckling?
Maybe it's tough to pull off a puberty book. Yes. The 8th book, I have no idea what it's going to be called, and I have no idea what it's going to be about, except for that Rowley starts to comb his hair differently because he has a girlfriend. Guys, what you'll find out is that when your friend gets a girlfriend, they become very annoying, and you'll wonder why you became friends with them in the first place.
When are you going to make a movie of Roger Cruise?
When are we going to make a movie of Roger Cruise? Well, the second Wimpy Kid movie was actually called Roger Cruise. It was sort of loosely based on it. Yeah.
Why did we skip Last Straw?
Why did we skip The Last Straw? Because we wanted to make a summer movie, you know, because we felt like the characters had been in school long enough. It was time to make a summer movie. So the movie is called Dog Days, and it actually incorporates parts of The Last Straw and Dog Days.
Did you get to ever see see like parts of the movie being filmed, like for any of the movies?
I did. I got to be on the set for about half of the time for each one of the movies. And in the second and third movies, I'm actually in them. So I play Holly Hills' dad. So if you ever see the movies again, look for a guy who can't act, and that's it. Yeah, but
When you were like in school, like in first or second grade, did you ever have to like write stories?
did I have to write stories in first or second grade? We didn't do a lot of story writing in school. We did a lot of story reading. So I didn't do a lot of writing until recently, actually. Yep.
What's your favorite of all the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books?
I think my favorite will always be the first one because before that book was published, I was just a person who wanted so badly to become a published cartoonist. And when I got that in the mail, I just wanted to like get 1,000 books and fill up a bathtub with them and swim around in it. That's how happy I was. I know that's very strange, right? But you'll see if you ever become an author, you'll feel the same way. Okay?
Why did you decide to make your book about your traveling?
Why did I decide to make a book about my child life? Well, I used to read, when I was a kid, I used to read books by Judy Blume, right? And Judy Blume writes a lot of stories about ordinary situations, but they're still around, 20, 30, 40 years later, I guess, these books that she wrote are still around and being read. And I think that there's something really nice about stories that feel true. Now there's a kid right there. Yes. Yep.
So who were you in the set?
Could you say that?
Yeah. Who were you acting in the set?
Who was I acting in the second movie? Yes. I was Mr. Hills again. I'm standing. If you look really closely, there's a church scene where Greg has chocolate on his pants, and I'm sitting next to Holly Hills in that scene. Or actually, I'm sitting next to her mom. And then also at the talent show, I'm in the audience there. And then in the third movie, I was at the Sweet 16 party for Heather Hills, and I'm actually there, like giving a gift to the older girl. So if you look, you don't have to look as closely in that one. I'm right there. Yes, sir? Good. You have the DVD. That's right. Thank you, Fox, right, for providing those. Give Fox a round of applause.
Yay!
How many books do you plan to make?
How many books do I plan to make? Well, I don't know actually. What I thought when I was writing these books, I was reading the Harry Potter books, right? And she always said that Harry Potter would end at book 7, right? And I always thought, well, I need to finish Greg's story. But what I realized was that Greg is not a literary character; he's a cartoon character, and the best cartoon characters never grow older. So I don't have a finish date for the Wimpy Kid books. I'm going to write until people stop reading them, or as long as I'm writing good books. Yeah.
How many movies do you think you're gonna make?
I think we've made our 3. I'm hoping to make a few holiday specials, and then maybe one day they'll reboot. There might be a kid who's not born yet who might be the next Greg Howard.
Holiday specials? Do you mean like cartoons or like?
They'll be computer generated, sort of like Ice Age or something like that. And the guy with blonde hair? Where do I live? I live in a town called Plainville, Massachusetts. Does that sound fancy? Right. So guys, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to draw a little bit. And you will not be impressed. Alright. So you have to, if I was in the Scouts, I would say signs up. But, so with cartooning, I mentioned before, cartooning is the art of really keeping things really simple. And there was this cartoonist in the 1800s who, his editor said, I'd like to see you draw with half as many lines. And the cartoonist said, if I drew with half as many lines, I'd have to